Hello, Internet, and welcome to our game club here at Twinstiq. We are following up last week's playthrough of Loom, and we've all completed Loom at this point. So we decided to get together again and talk about our thoughts on how the game ended before we re-roll and see whose game gets to come up next.
Yes.
So I think we will turn it over to Grey Wolf to introduce us a little bit more about Loom. If you didn't catch last week's podcast, he can give us a little background before we get into our thoughts on how the game ended.
Yeah, that sounds great. Give us a quick rundown on maybe some of the development history of Loom and what the game is.
Okay, so Loom was Brian Moriarty's first project at LucasArts. He had been working for Infocom for a while, but Infocom was in the process of winding down, and he managed to get an interview at LucasArts, and then they basically hired him. And he thought, for his first project, he wanted to do something a little different. So he came up with Loom, and Loom is a very interesting idea in that it's an adventure game, because adventure games are fairly big at that point, where there's no real interface except for a distaff. And a distaff in this world is basically like a big stick that you walk around with and you sing songs at, and you point in a direction or at a thing. Once you sing the song that you are thinking of, dependent on whether or not it's a song that will work or won't work, it will then affect the world around you. Like, for example, if you have some cloth, you can sing the dye song and it will turn that cloth a different color. So in this world, in the world where we pick up the game, the fabric of reality is starting to be sort of distorted by chaos, and the people who sort of watch over the world, the weavers of Loom, they're a little worried about why this is all happening. They think it's because of a guy called Bobbin who got pulled from the Loom, and he is sort of causing the chaos, and so they try and take him out of the equation, and in the process of this they get turned to swans. They don't understand why. So the scene basically where we were playing the game and where we left off was that he was trying to find the swans, and he was walking from place to place, learning specific songs, talking to people and saying essentially, hey, have you seen these swans? When we left, we were at a dragon's cave and we were about to talk to the dragon.
Yep.
Now, specifically, I wanted us to stop there, and there was a reason for that, and probably everyone figured out what the reason was almost immediately after.
Yeah.
Because what happens now is Loom up until this point has been a very tranquil, idyllic kind of game. It's very laid back, it's very beautiful, there's lots of beautiful scenery to look at. There's lots of interesting people to interact with. And then suddenly, after this conversation with the dragon, things change very abruptly.
Yeah. I definitely felt kind of bad when you do what you do to the dragon.
Yes.
By the way, if you're not familiar with how game clubs and book clubs work, expect spoilers for the game Loom here on out. Because that's how you discuss these games.
Oh wait, we're gonna spoil a 20-plus-year-old game? Oh, yes. How horrible of us!
Oh God, no. I know.
No, I have to admit. So in the last, I'm gonna call it the last half of the game, death is kind of aplenty. Like, characters literally get blown up.
They just
characters explode. Poor sacks of shit who are just trying to sleep on the job get fucking eaten alive.
Yeah. By dragon.
Off their body. No, but with that being said, and maybe I'm desensitized to video games nowadays, but I found myself laughing at these scenes, especially when
they were
funny. What's his name is blown up by chaos. I laughed out loud, thinking Mandible. Yeah. I was laughing out loud.
It reminded me of when I was reading Watchmen and Dr. Manhattan points at the people in the bar and the next comic panel is just them fucking exploding into a billion pieces, and I was like, you could have just teleported them into space. There's so many things you could have done. I kept laughing at the panel. I'm so glad the movie did the same fucking thing.
it reminded me of Indiana Jones and
The Crystal
the
Skull.
first one. Yeah, no, the first one where the Nazi space gets melted off.
Oh yeah,
For some reason, I was laughing, but. I mean, there was more humor in the second half, and I know it's probably not meant that way.
Yeah, it was.
But like
it wasn't
the way
really
you
intentional
defeat
humor.
the way you defeat the dragon to me was hilarious.
I felt really
It's
bad about that.
incredibly dark
I was
humor.
just like, oh, I'm gonna make her mad by turning this shit into fucking not gold, and she was like, all right, I mean that sucks, but I'll go get more. And I was like, oh, I wonder what a dragon's scared of. And then I set the fucking place on fire, and I was like, okay.
I just burned all your gold.
But you're not the one who sets it on fire, technically speaking.
Yeah, you
make
are.
her fall.
That's
You
true,
make
that's
her.
true.
You make her fall asleep, and she breathes fire when she sleeps. It's her own damn fault.
It kind
No,
of is.
because when you cast terror,
Your actions.
But when I cast
Okay.
terror, I turned into a ball of fire, and then the place lit on fire.
That didn't
okay.
happen with me.
So that was a little different. See, I turned the stuff to straw, and she's like, "Put it back now." So I'm like, "Okay," and then
I put her
dragon
to
to
sleep.
and then you turn
Yeah.
the gold to straw, and she snores and breathes fire on it.
Okay, so
Oh,
what's
see,
the-
I just
That's
cast terror because I was like, oh, I wonder if I could scare the dragon, and I did by turning
And
it
you
into a
can.
ball of fire.
Yeah, you can. Now, one of the
Okay, that's pretty funny. That's cool.
one of the
Yeah,
things that's
I didn't
interesting-
think there'd be another way to go around it. That's cool.
They are, but it's not okay. So one of the things that had happened. Let's talk about adventure games very quickly. When adventure games started out, they started out with the kind of mentality that a Skyrim has now. So a lot of the older adventure games have lots of different ways to solve various puzzles. Like King's Quest 1 very much grabbed this ethos by the reins, and there was always more than one way to solve a particular problem. As adventure games grew up, the systems that you played with, particularly the verb interface, as they got smaller, they tended to program in lots fewer variations on the solution to a puzzle. So with Loom, there are one or two places where you can deviate off of what the programmers think of as kind of the golden path, which is this is the actual solution to the puzzle. And what you saw there was one of those variations. There are not a lot of them in Loom, but that was one of them.
Yeah, and,
So
and it's actually interesting because what Cody's talking about, now I tried that first. I tried the fear thing. And yeah, you turned into a ball of fire, but all she did with me is say, fire! And then you went off. It didn't stay on fire.
Had you turned the gold into straw?
Turned the gold into
Yeah,
straw.
I did not turn the gold into straw before that. So,
okay.
Yes. And the thing is that she actually tells you in the EGA version that she is afraid of fire. If you have a
yeah,
conversation
she
with
said that in this too, if I remember correctly. She said,
Yeah,
I
she
haven't made
does.
fire for a long time. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Which is funny because when she sleeps, she
Nature.
makes fire.
Yeah.
That's sort of an involuntary action on her.
Yeah,
part,
right.
and it's a very
So
hard.
I do have, not to like get us off topic or whatever, but I do have one complaint with the game, and it seems to be, I have no other way to put this than stereotyping. So like here we have the stereotypical dragon that hoards gold.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
we have Mandible and Cobb, who I don't really understand their motivations. They're just like, "Mwahaha, we're evil," and
Yeah, I was gonna mention that too. I wasn't.
here are our motivations. We are evil. To me, that was kind of like the game had been good up to this point. I mean, there was things for me that were kind of like, well, why did he do this route? But after last week, we discussed that it's, he was inspired by Swan Lake, so there's all the symbolism,
Yes.
I guess, with
Yeah.
Swan.
Well, Mandible wasn't trying to like just summon chaos and have her destroy the world. He was trying to summon an army of the dead so he could
The
become
dead.
Yeah,
the ruler
so he could
of
rule the world.
Yeah.
But even still, it's like, mwahaha, I'm evil,
Yeah,
you
it's something
And-
we've seen a lot.
And for me, there was a few Deus Ex Machina moments in this
There
game
are, but
Mhm.
where
also,
like where
have to
the
think
old
about-
Swan Lady brings you your staff when you're locked into the
that's very
room or
good.
prison.
Yeah,
Very.
And I was
Heschel
just
was
like,
just like, "Here you
wow.
go."
And instead of having us figure out a clever way getting out herself, you just have her bring her staff.
Okay,
Yeah.
just two things very quickly. The one thing very quickly is that Hetchel did actually say that if he lost the staff, he would try and help her. So her coming in like that there is precedent for that day. But the other thing is, you've also got to remember that the kind of time frame that we're talking about when this game was built, telling stories in computer games hadn't quite been figured out yet. So
That's true.
sometimes
they needed a quick solution, and they made one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you were always constantly fighting against the disk space limit. So maybe Moriarty thought that they needed to flesh out Mandible, but there was no good way to do it because he isn't fleshed out. I mean, it's the way he is introduced is he's just not a very nice guy, and then you have no real context.
And that's clear. You immediately don't like him. You know he's the villain. That's really all they needed.
Right.
Yeah, I'd imagine a lot of the disk space has to come down to audio files for this because there probably wasn't really great audio compression back when this game was made. So that's probably also why the game's so short. Because like Rusty, is that his name? The guy you accidentally kill. Yeah. I felt like if the game could extend a period with you and him, like maybe he helps you with a few tasks here and there, so you build this sort of rapport, you'd actually feel a little bad when he dies, and I wouldn't laugh at it.
Because
again, like you're saying, I'm sure that's something they would have liked to do because these people are clearly smart. Because in 2 hours, they told the story that rivals the majority of video game tales of today's standards.
With that being said, like, yeah, it's dated. I don't feel. What is it like? I don't put him down for these quote unquote Deus Ex Machina.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, we lose you, George?
No, he's
still
still
you're there.
He's
Okay.
back.
No, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We lost you right at Deus Ex Machina, I believe. It was just a total fade out.
Yeah, the guy was mad at you.
No, what I'm saying was I'm not upset at the story ideas that they went with. I understand at the time, and I think this is just kind of a lapse of I'm an English major. I got my BA in English studies. So for me, like, story development in games is almost more important.
Very important. Right.
So it's like, when she brings you that staff, I was fully prepared for some Monkey Island stuff where it's like, I have to find a clever way out.
You have to MacGyver the shit out and make a new staff. Yeah. Exactly. I was expecting that too. I was like, oh, cool. I was hoping they'd do this, or they'd take away the tool that I use, and I have to figure something out. And they're like, no, here, just have it.
No,
I thought maybe he would have to whittle his own or something,
Kind of, to me, I think if you had to do that, it would have felt really out of place. Because up until that point, I mean, that's
true.
The only power that Bobbin has is that staff.
Right.
So when he loses it, he's useless.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And Mandible actually even brings that up. He says, if you take the staff away from a Weaver, they just can't do anything.
Yep.
And he's right, because I think the staff is basically the Weaver's focus. And when you take the focus away, suddenly he's just like, well, you can sing, but it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Well, it's. I mean, they address that with the other factions. I mean, they basically take away the giant anvil from the
forger.
The forgers. Thank you.
Yeah.
And but with that being said, that whole moment after he's captured by Mandible, or even before then, I kind of, it brought me out of the game, not in a bad way. I just felt like the end you were getting to the end so rushed. They have that great moment where you defeat Cobb, but it's kind of a lazy, I hear if we ever see the face of a Weaver, they die.
It was foreshadowed. I actually really enjoyed that because I was waiting for something.
It made me laugh, but
I
it was
kept waiting
just
for that to happen. So
let's talk about that for a moment. Because the death of Cobb is actually a bit weird. In the standard and practice modes, you don't actually see him lift up the cowl and then he dies. If you play it in expert mode, you actually see the scene where he lifts up the cowl and he goes, oh my god, and he freaks out and he dies.
See, I played on practice and I saw that.
I played on standard and I saw it.
I played on standard and I saw it.
Okay. because the EGA version doesn't do that at all. The EGA version just here's Cobb, they're talking about it, and then they shift scenes to Mandible where he's trying to cast an open draft.
Cobb screams. Yeah.
And then Cobb screams, and then he's like, okay, these people shouldn't be doing that.
Can't concentrate with all this noise, you assholes.
Right. And then he goes back, like, directly after that to Bobbin, and there's just nothing. You know, it's just like, but I think that it's a slight difference from the EGA and the VGA version. But there are lots of little differences.
On top of this, and this is something I actually wrote down so I didn't forget, and I luckily I didn't. My initial thought, seeing Bobbin as a sort of stereotype hooded figure, and then you come across a scythe, my thought was, okay, Bobbin's going to turn out to be Death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That never really happens, but it's very symbolic throughout. Except for that, Bobbin never actually gets a hold of the staff. But that's exactly my thought. I thought, okay, well, this is what happens. Bobbin is death.
Again, that's not really the character of Bobbin. Bobbin, and it's very interesting because when he meets Rusty and Rusty is dead, he realizes that's my mistake, and he's sorry that he's
that. Like distraught by it.
He is distraught by it, and
he's very lawful good. I mean, all things considered. I mean, he causes chaos, but it's all in the name of, finding my people, he
wants to find the Swans, right?
But he feels guilty when he does something bad,
but I think that what happened there was we don't know because we're never told whether or not Bobbin actually knew that the dragon came after him, because the only thing that he knows is that she flew up into the air. And for all he knows, she could have come right back down into her lair, and her lair was destroyed. Now, I made the comment while I was playing my LP that the minute he burned down her lair, she was gonna be frustrated.
No, sure. Yeah.
And the thing about Bobbin is we don't know what he knows about dragons. That's the other thing.
Sure.
So we don't
He's
know
been very
if he
isolated.
understood. Right. We don't know if he understood that the minute he burned down her lair, she would track him down and kill him.
Yeah.
So the moment where he turns himself into Rusty, he's probably not even thinking about the dire consequences of what happens if she spots him on the ground. He probably didn't even think that maybe she'd be flying around. So when he does encounter Rusty again and Rusty is dead, he's like, oops.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
my
true.
bad.
Yeah.
I have to admit, one thing I have to give praise for the game, at least for me, I found it very charming, was the voiceovers.
Yeah. I thought the voices were great, and
it's very well recorded for the time.
Yeah, no, it really is. The audio sounds great.
I thought Bobbin had a great voice. I loved when one of the scenes that made me laugh the loudest was when you turn the sheep invisible, so the dragon gets.
Oh yeah, he turned them.
And he screams. It was the funniest thing in the world.
Did you turn them invisible?
Yes.
I turned them green.
Yeah, I turned them green too.
I dyed them green.
Again,
so they matched
there's
maybe,
little things that you can
maybe
do.
that's what I did. I'm sorry. I can't remember.
I was just curious because that might have been something you did.
It might have been another
invisibility spell might have worked. I didn't try that.
I can't remember if I turned them invisible or I turned them green. Either way, they probably would have looked green.
You would have learned invisible at that point, so you could have done it.
Yeah,
I think I turned them invisible. I think that's what I did.
That's fine.
That's awesome.
But that's the thing. They're always like with Loom. They're not very big deviations, but they're big enough deviations that if you did it a little differently and you talk to your friend, they'd be like, "Oh wow, I didn't know that was possible."
And this is back when you'd buy a game at the time at the cost of $100. Basically, if you bought a game, you're gonna play it as much as you can. You'd probably play it on practice, and you'd play it on standard, then you'd play it on expert.
Then you'd play it on expert.
You'd start to go, "Oh, that's cool. This is different this time."
Yeah,
that was my cue for that, actually, to turn the sheep green was when he's always complaining about, grass green. I hate that color. Grass green.
Yeah.
He says that over and over again. So I was like, that's what I got to do.
Yeah, they spell it out for
I
me
never
in
thought about
mode,
it.
That's for sure.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I just thought it was cool. Well, it's like you said with the whole casting tear. Like, I never thought of that. I did. I turned her. I don't know what made me turn her gold to straw first.
Yeah.
I think it was just an obvious thing because I moved the cursor over gold and it said gold.
Yeah, I think that's why I did that too, because I didn't click on dragon. I'm sure, like, if I had clicked on dragon first, I probably would have done what Screw did, which is just try to scare her first, and then go, oh, okay, well that doesn't work. So
well, my first thought was,
and then I wouldn't have done it later anyway.
So I turned the straw gold, and she's like, "Well, put it back," and she was all angry, and then I'm like, "Screw you, go to sleep," and then the whole place lit on fire, and I was laughing.
The EGA version of her line is a lot more, it's a lot less angsty. When you turn the straw into when you turn the gold into straw, she's like, "That's fine. Just make sure that you put it back before you leave."
Yeah, that's kind of what she said to me too. She was just like, "Okay, well, I mean, you don't get to leave until it's back." I was like, "Well, I don't believe you, so I'm just gonna scare you away."
I don't blame you, but yeah. Yeah, it was interesting because I tried that fear, and then she was like, "That won't work on me," you know. And
well, that's because you can't set gold on fire.
No,
right. And then so my thought was, okay, turn the gold to straw, and then she said, "Well, put it back now." So I put it back, and I was like, "Okay, what's next?" And then I put her to sleep, and then I turned the gold to straw, and then it lit on fire, and she got scared and ran away. And I was like, "Okay, there's the solution." So I guess I went through a few more steps than you guys did, but
it's cool though.
Can we talk about the ending?
Sure.
Yeah.
'Cause I felt like, so here's my thing. Like, definitely this game it creates such a huge, like, universe, no pun intended. But, like...
No, the lore
and then it ends, and we realize, like, now, 20 years later, that there's not going to be a sequel.
No, there isn't. Alas.
And I feel very cheated at the end.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I made this comparison because I talked to a friend, right? Was it you, Cody? It might have been somebody else. But I talked to somebody right after, and I was talking about, as of recently, we had The Order 1886. Which, visually beautiful game.
Right.
I got sucked into the story. The story wasn't great, but then the game just ends, and the game did so bad that there's never going to be a sequel.
No.
And because of it, like, I feel cheated by that game even more, like I feel with this one, because it's like, you got me invested in the story, in a beautiful game, and I'm not going to get any resolution.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of do, because the story of Loom is pretty self-contained. But it does set itself up for a sequel, because...
I mean, half the world's in chaos. I don't really know if you call that
I don't call it a resolution. That's like...
Well,
half the world is ruled by this crazy demon lady, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, now that was another question. Are there multiple endings here? Because... No. I was never able to pick up Hetchel's feather when it dropped.
No, I wasn't either.
You can't. You can't.
Okay.
That's just not a thing that you can do. What happens is that the minute you try and pick up the feather, he takes it for himself.
Yeah,
right, Chaos
and then
takes
you have to destroy the loom.
Right.
Yeah,
it's the only thing you can do.
Because that was my complaint. I didn't like the final battle. It was just like, I'll sit here while you cast spells, and then I'll sit here while you cast spells.
And you cast them in reverse. I
But
thought that was fine. The thing that bothered me about the end was when you're drifting through the astral planes, and you get all the way to the end, and you find all the swans, and then you go, "Oh, cool. Well, you got to go back now, and you have to close all those fucking portals." It only took like 5 minutes, but it's like, okay, really? You haven't made me backtrack at all this whole game, and now you're gonna just tell me?
Yeah, no. I did it on the way.
Yeah, I did it on the way too.
I didn't even think about it. I figured I'd go defeat the fucking demon. They'd all close.
Yeah.
No, I closed them. Like, so you walk through and you'll see like some chaos scene. So you fix the chaos and you walk back through, and then you close the portal. Like,
that's what I did.
Oh, see, I just hopped through the portals and I fixed what they fucked up, and then I went back to just go do another one, and then they were like, "Ha, you gotta go close all those." I was like, move.
To me, the logic was like, if I close it, there won't be a problem in that area again.
Yes.
Like,
I don't actually show you, but
closing it honestly didn't cross my mind until I got to the swans who told me to do it.
Right, and then the swans.
Oh my god, I'm gonna punch your cat. I'm gonna literally punch a cat.
She wants to go out.
Nice.
She wants to go outside. Well, sorry. I'll be right back.
I want to actually punch cat people.
Yeah,
Very good.
I love cats.
So, just very quickly, because last week I asked this question and no one could give a coherent answer because they hadn't seen the end yet. Now that you've seen the answer, it's clear that Mandible was up to no good.
There.
But when you were sitting there last week, what did you think he was up to?
No good.
Yeah, I mean,
He's a stereotypical villain.
His tone of voice and his character model and the way he's presented to you, he's a villain. That's clear.
Right.
But I mean, that doesn't mean that couldn't have been reversed at some point, or that he needed the sphere for, some other non-nefarious purpose that just wasn't being seen.
Well, we're presented with the fact that it is a nefarious purpose because we know from playing through that first half that the sheep were being set up as meat, and we know that the forge was being used to make 10,000 swords.
Yeah.
So the real thing was, who was, when you were looking at this last week, who was he planning to go to war with, or how was he planning to make an army?
See, for me, that's where I get frustrated because, okay, let me backtrack a little bit.
Sure.
We had that amazing audio drama that came packaged with the game. With that being said, we could have had another audio drama that gave reasoning for Mandible's.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah.
Like
they could have done that.
For me, it's really frustrating because, okay, just like Screw said, we can tell that he's up to no good. He's the stereotypical villain. But I thought in the last half we would have a reasoning for everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Why?
But I think it does just come down to, this is 4 years ago, 25 years ago, 26 years ago, 7? Jesus, something. I can't math.
Yeah, 1990.
26 years ago. I mean, most games were lucky to have a villain that you had any motivation at all. Ruling the world is pretty. It's at least a motivation. It's not a very original one, and it's not very in depth, but it gets the point across.
Right.
But again, it did raise the question, just like Possible said, was who was he going to go to war with? Because the world itself seems pretty small. We have
it wasn't. I don't think it was
sword makers.
I never saw it as a war. He was just going to rule the world with an undead army. That was it.
Yeah.
Okay, but even still, to me, it was, especially after we got that amazing prequel audio novel. Yeah. They could have taken the time to record another 40-minute one that gave Mandible at least
reason
motivations.
Now, so let's talk about that for a minute. When you are walking back to Rusty, one of the things Rusty says is he needs to go find his people, he needs to go find his guild. Now, it turns out that the next game in the sequence was supposed to be Forge. That was what its name was. It was Forge, and my assumption is that they were going to go and deal with Rusty.
Yeah.
Right. Now, the thing about that is that if Rusty was so intertwined with making the 10,000 swords, they might have brought not necessarily Mandible back, but they might have given you a fleshed out reason for why Mandible was doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
And that is what I think kind of maybe was the hook for Forge. And that was why they didn't tell you too much about Mandible straight up now.
Yeah, perhaps.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
It's just
we don't. Well, we don't.
We'll never
makes
know.
Perfect sense.
It does.
It makes sense. It's just I have a problem with, not that I say that I don't find him interesting. I have a problem, especially in this day and age where we have so many great, almost sympathetic villains.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mandible's
not
sympathetic at all.
Well, it's not
you
just
don't feel for him at all.
But it's not just that. It's for me, how do I put this? I'm all for almost one-dimensional villains if they have a background to what they do. Like, for me, I feel like Loki, I know a lot of people sympathize with him, but in the comics, he's a very one-dimensional villain, or he was until the new Marvel movies. It was, I'm literally the god of mischief, so I cause mischief.
Yeah, there wasn't anything to it.
To me, Joker is a one-dimensional villain, so one-dimensional villains can be great. I just feel that as culture, we've evolved where I want something more for my villains.
Yeah,
and I feel like, and I feel like,
but you also have to call back to something like Shakespeare's Othello, where he confronts Igor and Iago, and he goes, "Well, why are you doing all this?" And he goes, "Well, it's more frightening to you if you don't know." And it is more frightening to you if you don't know.
But Iago has his reasons too. I mean, they're racist, but he has his reasons. I mean,
but also, I'm not going to compare Shakespeare's writing to the writers of Loom. No. Not that the writers of Loom are bad, but they can't really pull off not giving your villain backstory as well.
So my big thing here is I feel like there was lost opportunity. They could have. I mean,
I do too, but we'll never know why the opportunity was lost. We don't know if it's just because it was a short sight, and I doubt it. I guarantee you, it's just a disk space thing. And another audio log thing could have been a possibility, but at the same time, a budget is still a budget. If they go, all right, we have enough budget to do an audio file, do we do one about the world, or do we do one about the villain?
Yeah,
exactly.
I'd rather have one about the world. And I kind of wish more games would have something like that, though. I think it was, especially back then, you buy a game, and then you open it up, and you have a CD to listen to on your way home, and then you get to play the game.
Exactly. I was thinking about games back then that could have done with a great audio backstory, and for me, it's kind of funny because I may be the only one that feels this, but if we had gotten one that set up the world of Doom and the motivations of Doom guy, maybe that would have been cool.
Okay, so
I think the reason. Yeah.
So let's talk about Doom for a moment.
Okay.
What you don't maybe know is that Doom started off life as an RPG.
Yeah, I did not know that.
That would have been awesome.
Let's think for a moment.
That would have been cool.
It was supposed to be Was
it going to be like a CRPG, like all the games at the time? Because I actually want a CRPG set in the fucking Doom universe now. That sounds amazing.
That would be pretty bitchin'.
That would be pretty cool.
I think it was going to be a little bit more real-timey, like Quake. Not Quake. Diablo.
Diablo. Yeah. That would be pretty cool though too.
The problem for id was that they were too small, and the ambition was too big. So every time they made a pass at Doom, every time they tried to figure out how to make it work, they just have to keep on stripping things away until they ended up with a shooter. Because I mean, at that point, it was 2 or 3 people. It was Carmack and Romero and one other guy, and they were literally trying to make this big RPG. And it just every time they tried to make a pass at it, they were like, "We need to release this because we're not making any money. How do we do that?"
I think that's the charm of I've been slowly playing the new Doom game. And every time they try to introduce a story element, Doom guy himself will
pissed off about it.
Yeah, he'll throw away a console or something. And I'm just to me, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I love his reactions to stuff. He just especially for I love the drones. When he's putting upgrades on, he just punches a drone and takes it. It's the best.
Amazing.
I think that goes to show you that for some games, story isn't needed.
No.
Not every game has to tell a great tale. Right. I think this
Destiny.
one does.
Destiny.
That's a different kind of scenario though, because unlike Doom, they actually try.
They try.
Which is
and
sad.
They failed.
I mean, try, quote unquote. Yeah.
Try.
So let me just bring this back to Loom.
Yeah, we'll bring it back to Loom. Sorry,
it's okay.
No, it's fine. And the whole thing here is I think Yoda was saying, it turned into a because the way LucasArts was set up then, they didn't really care about money too much, but they had schedules and they'd been advertising Loom and they had a deadline, and they kind of had to go, what would help the game more.
Yeah.
And I think in this case they made the right choice. They made the right call. They were like, well, the audio drama about the world will set up the world better, and we know, based on our other franchises, that we're going to get to make a Loom 2 and a Loom 3.
Yeah. Then
So
you
we
can
won't
expand the characters in those
worry
games.
too much about character or that kind of thing too much.
You know
Because
what's funny?
Right?
You know, I'm sorry, George. I'm going to interrupt you for a minute because this just popped into my head. The one moment of real incontinuity to me in Loom.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody noticed this or not. And it was nothing game breaking. It was just something that stuck out in my head. Is when you're going through all these portals, solving problems
Right.
at the end of the game, you can heal everyone and bring them back.
Right.
Except the glass guy. I can't remember his name.
Oh no, I've been thinking about that for 25 years. I have a solution for you, but talk about your incongruity. Talk about it.
Right. But that's it, right? You can heal everyone. Everyone's okay again. You're fixing problems, and you go to him and you heal him, and he's like, I'm dead anyway, and that's it.
I'm thinking it. I felt like it was more like he was betrayed by the person he put his trust in, and he couldn't come back from that.
Right.
That's
okay.
I can see that.
Meta, but yeah, that makes sense.
Well, no, it's kind of the Star Wars mentality there of like why Amidala died after childbirth. You know, it's I have a broken heart and I can't be put back together.
Yeah, except written a little bit better than that movie.
No, so I like Cody's like idea there that his trust had been completely broken, so he would never be.
He would never be healed again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I kind of like that. There's poetic like justice there, I guess.
Yeah, my take on this is a little bit different because if you listen to his lines, he's very careful about saying he wants people to remember the glass makers and he wants them to remember them crystal clear. That's
right.
it. Those
we chose to go out with clarity.
Yeah.
Right. Crystal clarity. And then he vanishes and you're like, why can't I fix him? And the reason why I don't think that you can fix him is because the Glassweavers maybe realized that their potential power over the pattern was too great. Because remember that their whole big thing is the spears. That's their one big fundamental thing.
That's true.
Right.
And
to be able to see the future.
The way the spears work is they allow you to see a particular future. So if you're looking into the spear and you're a particular guy, you will see your particular future. We saw it a lot with Bob, and he would look into a spear and then he would see himself doing something. Or he would look into the spear. If you looked into the spear down in the Dragon's Lair more than once, you would see different things happening.
Yeah, it was 3 for each crystal ball, wasn't it?
I think it was 3, yeah.
Each time.
Yeah.
Right. And it is particular things that will happen to Bobbin, but they will affect the structure of the world around them. Mm-hmm. And so his thing is, he doesn't think, and this is why he took the Glassweavers with him, he doesn't think that it's a great idea that people know the future. And so
that makes sense. Yeah, see, I wasn't thinking about it as deeply as all that. That does make sense. And I paid attention to the line of we choose to go out with clarity. So it was his choice in the long run.
But so he makes a choice.
What the hell? I made everybody else okay, and that sort of upset me. So I was like,
absolutely. But
you've also got to think about when you hit the beginning of the game and you're walking through the big Weaver's Hall. There are those 3 tapestries, and when you hit the third tapestry is very frayed.
Right, it's torn.
Right, which meant that the spears probably wouldn't work as well as they should have. Mm-hmm. So he is saying that in a rebuilt pattern where the spears work perfectly, it's not good for people to know their future. So we're going to take our guild out of the equation and just erase the whole guild. And that was a conscious decision that I think he made. Because also the other thing he said was the scythe is very powerful and it could cut down chaos and that's not a good thing to have lying around.
No.
Yeah, too powerful a weapon. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that is why he vanished and why you couldn't fix him.
I think that's funny because he gets to the glassmakers, right? And they're talking about how they tried to protect the scythe. And then they show a cutscene of chaos coming in.
And that's a good cutscene, by the way.
Okay, yes, but they don't like protect the scythe. They just kind of kill the shiners of the scythe. are the cleaners of it just kind of keel over and die. I'm like, oh yeah, you did all you could to protect it. That's
well done.
That's for sure.
Again, in the EGA version, he says a little bit more about that. He says that they thought about protecting the scythe, but they thought that if they picked up the scythe and they started wielding it against chaos, they would be, they would come down to the level of chaos, and they wouldn't be picking the high road.
Okay.
I don't remember that.
And that was
Yeah,
why
I don't
they
remember that in
did
this
that.
version either. So that would have been nice to have.
Yeah.
Why is there such a difference between the versions?
Because, and I talked about this last week, they
Yeah.
did a Red Book audio, and Red Book audio only allows you 72 minutes of audio. So when they went through the script for Loom, they thought about the most pertinent things that they needed to get said, and so some of the stuff just had to get cut.
Right.
Okay,
And
but
that's why the
now that
script
we
is
have it on
different.
PC, why don't we have the full director's cut version then?
Because when, and I don't know why they did this, when I think it was LucasArts renegotiated with GOG and Steam and all those things to put the games back up, it might have been Disney even at that point. They were like, you need to put the most current version up so it looks as good as it can.
Yeah.
The EGA version really is, it's 16 colors, it's generic MIDI sound, there's no voices. So, and as a sales thing, they were just like, put the latest version of the game up.
I guess that makes sense. It's just a shame to lose some of this great dialogue. You know?
Right.
Stuff that would have made a difference, I think, in how.
Yeah,
people
it
see
makes
the
a little.
game. Oh, it definitely would.
Especially that scene when they're like, we did all we could to protect it, and then shows a cutscene where she just like kills them, and I'm like, oh yeah, you really did your part there, buddy boy.
Now, my other question about the scythe is that how come the forgers didn't make the scythe? They're the guys that make blades. The glass guys make glass.
Yeah, like I would understand if it was like a glass scythe.
Yeah,
something that looked
well,
like
maybe it was meant to be. Maybe that's what that was meant to be. Was a glass scythe. I don't know.
Okay, so my take on that is that when you talk to the foreman where we were earlier, he says that there were lots of artifacts, and maybe the scythe itself was an artifact from a former
Just
time.
an artifact that they had. Yeah, that could be.
And no one they know made it, but someone in the distant past made it. Because remember, it's very powerful. I mean, the glassmaker, the head glassmaker, actually said that if he'd wielded it against chaos, they could have killed chaos. So it's a very powerful artifact. So I don't think, because if you look at the magic of Loom in the current age, the age of the guilds, the magic of Loom is very weak at this point. The only person who's sort of powerful is Bobbin. Everyone else just has to contend with what they have. The shepherds know the Song of Invisibility, and that's one of the songs they know.
That's a good point, actually, because the whole thing, I mean, when you click on the cemetery, the first cemetery, you see what year it is, 8,000 such. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes sense if the scythe was some ancient weapon that they found that was several thousand years older than their guilds.
Like, supremely powerful.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that they maybe made the scythe, but they were aware of its power.
Had a legendary tag.
Makes sense.
It was orange.
Had a legendary tag.
So,
God damn it.
So with that being said, should we each give our final impressions of the game before we roll for the next game?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Cody, do you want to go first?
Sure. I thought this was a really, really excellent game. Obviously, for $6, this is something you should definitely pick up. If you've listened to the entire Game Club and spoiled yourself on it, you're still not missing out. I promise.
Yeah, for sure.
You'll definitely see
parallels
between the core mechanic that you use in Loom and a certain Zelda game that everyone grew very popular with. And I'd very much bet that game wouldn't have that element if Loom didn't exist. Because I don't really think that...
I'm willing to bet that you're right, actually.
Yeah. I think it was great, and I'd love to see Brian Moriarty maybe hit up a Kickstarter or just get a team together and he did.
To make another Loom game.
Oh yeah, or like an expanded version of Loom, like we said with some character development and stuff like that.
He is making another game, but it's not this. It is Thimbleweed Park. We've talked about it on Slack. I've shown you pictures. And that's currently what he's up to. Him and a couple of ex-LucasArts guys.
Okay. Yeah, I think the idea of using music to make an adventure game is something that you could expand upon quite a bit, and I would like.
Yeah,
to
I think it's
more.
cool too. I agree. I think that's awesome. I think it would be cool if you could play it with a dance pad. Actually, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure you could probably rig that up.
Use the Rocksmith cable, plug in a guitar, and yeah. All right. Well, Gray, what are your thoughts on Loom 26 years after the fact?
Okay, so I played Loom twice now. This is my second run through. I love Loom. It's a wonderful world. It has a very unique mechanism for playing the game, and it's an interesting story told across 1.5 hours. Moriarty got it absolutely right. It's a game that people can finish, and I think that says a lot more about it than a lot of the games that you see now. He definitely wanted people to see the story, and I'm glad that he gave it to us, and I'm glad that it's just such a wonderful game.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think I liked it so much because it's very deliberate. There's no like Cody said, there's really no backtracking except for that one area. If you get through that one point,
that was probably just me being dumb, since I was the only one of the four of us who didn't think to close the portals.
But to be fair, Screw, last week you said that you had to backtrack, but you couldn't because of the game.
Well, I had to backtrack because I missed something.
There could be a possibility.
I had to backtrack because I missed something that was very obvious, and that was my fault.
Yeah, but the backtracking in this is still not like fucking Borderlands, where that's 90%.
Yeah, it's not like go get me 1,000 acorns or something stupid. There's no fetch questing and that kind of stuff. Everything is there. The cues are very nicely put. I really never had to look at any walkthrough. In fact, the only place I even got a little bit stuck was at the dragon because I had to try so many things.
Yeah.
Right when I was talking to the dragon, I'm like, this isn't working. What am I doing wrong? And then I sort of went like, okay, wait, this step and this step and this step and this step in a certain order must make it happen. And then finally it worked. That was the only place I really got stuck. After that, it was just, one of my favorite things actually was outside of the cave, and you walk out and there's the spiral staircase.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I went like, oh well, obviously I have to untwist that.
Yep.
And I thought that was cool.
That was the one that I think came the most natural to me. I was just like, oh yeah, I know how to do this.
Yeah, right. And that spoke a little bit to the evolution of bobbin.
It was ridiculous, but ridiculous in a great way.
It was cool. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you.
Before we talked to True Legend Killer, did anyone get lost in the one screen maze like I did?
No, I didn't. I actually just accidentally chose the right path.
I just clicked in one direction until he was like, well, I guess this isn't the lie. And then I clicked the other direction, and then I fell, and then I went around, and we were good.
When you clicked one direction, did it sing a song? That was terrible.
One Direction. I see what you did there.
Very good. Okay.
No, it actually.
Oh my god.
It actually just caused every girl in the neighborhood to squeal and faint and die.
Very good. True Legend Killer, tell us about your impressions of.
All things considered, I take the age of the game into factor here.
Right.
I really liked it. I would give it. I know I'm probably the only one obsessed with reading, but it helps me like stay on track. I'd probably give it a solid 8 out of 10.
That's fair enough.
I think there was some things to me that dropped the ball that I kind of drops its score. Stereotypical characters, But with all that being said, I thought it was a beautiful game. I thought the voiceover work for a game that's so dated was very well done.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's really a good point. And we talked about that a little bit, but yeah,
the music that was
really nice.
Yeah, the music that was included in the game was very nice.
Yeah, and great audio quality too, honestly. It was very surprising. Whoa. George.
Lost you again, George?
Are you back?
Oh no. We might have lost George.
I think we lost George.
It's trying.
Okay, while we wait for him to show up.
Yeah, there we go.
There he is.
Yay!
Yay!
That was weird.
That was weird.
That was weird. No, so no, I thought I was glad that I got to play it. It's something that kind of, because Yoda mentioned something along the lines of Legend of Zelda. It reminds me of something like A Link to the Past, where I would probably go back and play this every few years.
Yeah.
Simply because it's so short.
That is the best Zelda game, by the way. In my opinion, that's the best Zelda game, A Link to the Past.
I've never played Link to the Past.
Of the old games, yes. I still think Ocarina takes the cake, but
Majora's for me.
Okay, I can see that. But anyways, no, so Loom, solid 8 out of 10. Even if everybody kind of watched the Lost Wolves, play through that he's doing or whatever, play it for you heard us say. There are multiple ways to go about the puzzles that I turned the sheep invisible and that worked for me.
Yeah.
You guys turned him green and that worked for you.
Yep.
And once you say the green thing, it logically makes more sense because twice before they give you hints when you first get the dying thing, you turn something green, and then later on the dude's like, "Oh, I hate green." I should have thought of that, but I did invisibility.
Oh, yeah. I mean, invisibility, honestly, in terms of the real world and how things work, invisibility makes way more sense than green sheep happening to look exactly like the color green of grass.
Yeah,
so,
in fact, thinking about it, they may have liked that better since they bred their sheep to be extra white, and you just went ahead and turned them green.
Yeah.
So
now they're all extra green.
Now they're like, oh. Well, okay, I guess.
Well, now they don't need to trade them in for any green
anything.
No, I was talking about money, money.
Yeah, I think it was money
sorry.
joke. Yeah.
Right. Sorry.
Anyway. But yeah, I would wholeheartedly recommend anyone to play Loom. I think for a 26-year-old game, it holds up incredibly well. It's got some problems, but it is certainly worth your time.
Well, everything's got problems.
Tell us about your impressions, because you haven't told us yet.
Yeah, I did. I said I loved it. I loved it so much. And blah blah blah.
Sorry.
It's okay. We know you have to take a nap every 5 minutes. You just missed that one. Yeah.
I loved it, and I would also recommend it. Certainly the GOG version, not the Steam version, because GOG version works, Steam version probably doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's inexpensive. It's a really charming, really cool game. I definitely recommend it. And one last point is that as far as adventure games go, this one's pretty casual. You're not gonna have any issues.
Oh yeah, no. If I can beat this game, then anyone can beat this game.
That reminds me of what I wanted to say earlier. Was I remember Monkey Island back in the day.
Yeah, that game's hard as fuck.
Cobb is a character in Monkey Island. And he wears a pin, I remember, that says "Ask me about Loom," and I never when I was younger, I didn't know what that was about. I just thought it was an in joke that I didn't understand, because there's a lot of in jokes in Monkey Island.
Yep.
And to me that's so funny that they even within their own games they were trying to promote Loom. That obviously wasn't doing as well as something like Monkey Island.
Yeah, it did okay. It didn't do as well as Monkey Island, but it did okay, and it did okay because I think that the people who were interested in Brian Moriarty and seeing what he would do next, because even when he was at Infocom, he wasn't really writing standard text adventures. They were all kind of a little.
They're all different,
denser and different than what you would normally get. And so the people who really liked him were going, oh, he's at LucasArts now. We must see what he's going to do next. But it didn't do gangbusters good. It would have probably at that era and time with George Lucas just not caring about LucasArts. Moriarty could have gotten a sequel greenlit, no problem. But he was just doing other things at the point. And he was like, eh.
And if there's one big problem with this game, it's the fact that it's I don't know, it's not a problem, I guess I'm going to call it a problem, is they do such a good job introducing you to this universe, and the story just kind of the story just kind of ends. Like
Yeah.
Yoda said, like half the world is in chaos, but oh well. And like the thing that makes
The other half is fine, and that's really the
Yeah.
Just turn into a slime.
The other half was
That's
filled with criminals and Bieber fans, we promise.
Right.
the thing for me that's frustrating is the fact that like there is no follow up. I mean,
Yeah.
what you see is what you get, and that's the frustration. That's why I brought up something like The Order 1886. I got so invested in this game and this world, and like, granted, the game's not great, but like, I got invested. There's never going to be a sequel.
Yeah.
No, there will never be a sequel, unfortunately. But like I said, I mean, remember that when Moriarty made that game, he probably went into it with full intent to make a Loom 2 and a Loom 3.
Oh yeah.
You know, it wasn't that he was trying to leave you dangling. It was just that it didn't work out that way. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That's Game Club game number 1 done. Thank you so
We
much.
have to roll.
To dance.
We're going to roll now for a new game with a new person running Game Club. It won't be me. It'll be
Hope that
someone
it's
else.
mine.
We hope that
Yeah.
it's yours.
If it is yours, it would be very topical.
It would.
Oh, of course. All right, so you guys ready?
I am not in the running for this anymore, so we're going to roll 4 dice, not 5.
Yep, we're rolling 4 dice. We're
D4?
gonna roll between Papers, Please, Ghostbusters 2009, Hammer Fight, or Spec Ops, since Andrew put one through.
Maybe Spec Ops.
Yeah, if Andrew's still around, we'll see. All right, so.
Maybe we should just skip him because he's not here.
All right, so the first roll was Papers, Please. And that's
Is
how
that
it's
what we're
showing up
playing?
on the thing.
I see a 3 and a 4. Well, I see a 2, 1, 3, and a 4.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
A 3 and a 4?
Wait, I was 2.
Yeah, but remember how I told you guys I have to click roll and
Oh,
then
sorry. No,
the thing
I'm
shows
looking at
up.
it wrong. I'm looking at it wrong. The timeline is probably it rolls backwards. so it would
Because
be 4, 1.
the bottom roll is the only roll that shows up on the video.
Okay.
Okay.
But if we want to
Well-
choose between Papers, Please, and Ghostbusters, we can do that. I can
Well,
hold
I
out.
think we should just go with the first roll and tell people it was a 2 because that's what it was.
Well,
I was
no,
2.
the first roll is a 1.
Oh yeah. See, I did what Gray did. I'm looking at the bottom. It's
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
Okay.
goes bottom to
Well.
top.
damn it. I guess mine's not going to be topical.
Well-
Aw.
Well, we
No,
can
it'll
do
still
it.
be.
I don't really care
not
if
that
we
far
skip
away.
Papers, Please for a week. It's an easy, short game. If we want to go with roll number 2 and pick number 2,
I don't care. Doesn't matter.
I think it would be good, a good topical game to do. You guys, Gray, Screw,
I am
vote,
easy.
vote
I'm-
for
Yeah, no,
Ghostbusters.
That's fine. Sure.
'Cause
Okay.
Papers, Please is going to be topical forever, especially this year with the fucking
Yeah.
election going on.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, God, yeah. So I
So
guess
we are
if that's the
playing
case,
Ghostbusters 2009.
we're going to be playing next week. So you
Yay.
can pick this. We can pick this up on Steam right now for very cheap. It's for PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. We are going to be sticking to the PC, the Xbox, and the PlayStation 3 version. Not to say that the Wii and the 3DS versions probably weren't good, but they are more cartoony. The reason I chose this is because, all things considered, this is the true third Ghostbusters movie. Everyone but, basically everyone comes back. So, yes, this is going to be a great game for Ghostbusters fans. For fans that saw the new movie and were incredibly disappointed, as I knew they would be.
I don't know if anyone really saw the movie. Have you seen all the pictures of the empty theaters?
No, I've not seen the pictures for the empty
There
theaters.
are a
but,
lot of empty theaters on opening
okay,
weekend.
and to say, so this game is broken up into chapters. So, I want everybody to stop after Chapter 2, so you will stop after the Sedgwick Hotel. So any fans of the original movies will recognize the name of the hotel, and you'll recognize the level extensively. This will probably take you...
Is it marked clearly as chapters, or is it just going to be?
From what I remember, it's pretty obvious.
Well, it
So
doesn't say chapter 1, chapter 2, or
I can't remember if it does or doesn't.
all right.
But
Stopping
with that being
after the hotel is over.
yes, so after the hotel, you're stop.
Stop. Right. Okay.
So
I got
with that being said, so the first level is you're in the firehouse. It's very basic, introduce you to the controls, and then you go to the hotel. So each playthrough, this will take about maybe 3 weeks. We're going to do two levels each.
Okay.
Because that rounds out the whole game. So, so stop after the second level, stop after Sedgwick Hotel, and then we'll come back next week and talk about it.
Sounds good.
Excellent.
Finish the second level or stop when you get to the second level?
Finish the second level. So stop level 3.
Okay.
All right. Sounds
Thank you.
good. All right. Sweet. So, Ghostbusters, the video game is what it's called. Is from
2009.
Is from 2009.
Because they just released a new one.
You can find it on Steam. I do not believe it is on GOG.
It's not on GOG.
And I believe it is on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 as well.
3. Yes.
So, awesome. We will see you guys next week then when we talk about Ghostbusters, the video game. I don't think any of us will have seen the new movie, so we certainly can't compare it to that. So we'll just talk. We'll just talk about Ghostbusters and how it compares to maybe some of the comedy of the original films.
Yeah. So here's one briefly thing. If you guys want to go back just one night and rewatch the first 2 movies, for anybody that remembers, you don't have to. But if the movies are still fresh in your memory, like they are for me, because I watch them every year.
This man has no dick.
For anybody that remembers the cartoon during the early 90s.
The real Ghostbusters.
The real Ghostbusters. there are Easter eggs for that, but you're not going to be.
Do we get to fight alongside Slimer? Is he part of the Ghostbusters crew in this game?
I'm not going to ruin anything.
He is. Fuck yeah.
All right.
You just confirmed it.
I'm not going to ruin anything. No. Okay.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for watching.
Stay geeky, Internet.
Twinstiq crew people and Internet folks. And we will see you guys next week.
Indeed.
All right. Say bye to everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Good night and good game.